Chapter 3, Caught for a Thief. Amy and Jack left the tailor's shop in high spirits. Their uncle couldn't be far, and now they knew someone who could lead them to him. "But Amy," said Jack, "that woman said the general wanted to take us captive." "What if he does?" "We can't let him," said Amy. "We'll have to find them when they're not together and ask her then." They headed back toward the cathedral. It was a long walk, and it was getting late in the afternoon. As they hiked along, Jack noticed a most wonderful smell. He looked up, and there in the window of a building that was built right out to the street sat two steaming pies. Jack stopped, and that caused Amy to stop and look up too. "They're chicken pies, just like Mom makes," said Amy. Jack's stomach growled and suddenly ached. The children were getting very hungry, not having had anything to eat all day except one hard biscuit early that morning. But Jack's stomach hurt from more than hunger. "They're just like Mom made, Amy, not makes. Mother can't make pies anymore. Remember, it's just like the old lady Witherspoon said. Mom's dead." He stomped off down the street, keeping his head turned away so Amy wouldn't see the tears that swam in his eyes. "Jack, wait!" Amy caught up to him. "I didn't mean anything. Those pies just made me think about Mom, that's all. I miss her too, you know." "Yeah, I know," he mumbled. "It's just that I wish she hadn't left us. It ain't fair. And now we're all alone, and I'm starving." "Don't be angry, Jack. It wasn't her fault. We just gotta hang together and find Uncle Sedgwick. Then we can get something to eat." "But what if we never find him?" We will. They rounded a corner and came to a street market. Jack's mouth watered when he looked at the bright red apples in a grocery stall. Just one bite would taste so good, he thought. The grocer was looking the other way, helping a customer. Suddenly, Jack grabbed two apples, one for himself and one for Amy, and tried to put them in his pockets. But the apples were so big that they wouldn't fit. While he was struggling, the grocer turned around and saw him. "Hey, you little brat!" he yelled. "Put 'em back!" In fright, Jack turned and started to run. "Amy, come on!" For a moment, Amy was confused, but when she saw the grocer lunge around the end of his table with his cane raised high, she started running after Jack fast enough. "Stop! Thief! Stop! Thief!" yelled the grocer as they dodged between the other stalls in the street market. Jack turned down an alley, an apple clutched in each hand, and Amy was right behind him. The cobblestones of the alley were rough, and garbage and puddles of sewage made it slick. Jack looked back to see the grocer hot on their heels. Suddenly, Amy screamed, and Jack heard a loud crash. When he looked back, a rain barrel had tipped over into the center of the alley and had broken open. Water was flooding everywhere. Amy was on the ground in the middle of it. Just then the grocer skidded to a stop above her and grabbed her by the hair. He raised his cane. "No!" yelled Jack, and raised his two apples high so the man could see them. "Don't hit my sister!" "You bring them apples back to me then, you little tea leaf." Jack approached the grocer. The man's face was purple, and he was breathing hard, but he hadn't let go of Amy's hair. Jack put both apples in one hand. They were almost too big to hold that way, and came closer, holding them out to the man. Suddenly, the cane whistled through the air and came crashing down on Jack's hand and wrist. One apple exploded. The other went flying across the alley. Jack felt more pain shoot up his arm than he had ever known in his life. "That'll teach you to thieve from me, you little brats. Every day robbing me blind. It's got so a man can't make a living anymore." And with that, the man turned and lumbered back up the alley. Jack realized that he was crying. He didn't want to cry. He wanted to be brave for Amy, but he couldn't help it. A great red welt was growing across his wrist, and his hand felt like he'd never use it again. Then Jack noticed that Amy was crying too. Her clothes were wet, and she was holding her ankle. "What's wrong?" said Jack through his sobs. "I think I hurt my ankle," she said. "Can you stand up?" Jack asked. "I don't know. I think it's really hurt, but what about your hand?" Jack held it out and tried to move his fingers. At least they did move, but the pain throbbed harder than ever. "I think it's okay," he said, not at all sure that it was so. "Here, help me up," said Amy. Jack offered his other hand to help her. Amy stood up using Jack for balance, keeping her right foot off the ground. Slowly she put it down and tried one feeble step, but the moment she put weight on it, she gave a little cry and almost fell again. "I think it's really hurt, Jack." "What are we going to do?" "I don't know. Maybe it's just twisted. Here, let me lean on you." The two hobbled back down the alley as evening turned the shadows to blue, purple, then gray. "Wait a minute," said Jack. "Grab hold of the corner of the building." Then he ran back down the alley, searching for something. In a few minutes he returned. "Here," he said as he held out the badly bruised apple that had not been totally smashed by the grocer's cane. "I know it isn't ours, and I shouldn't have taken it. I'm sorry about that, especially because of your foot. But I guess the grocer didn't want it. At least he didn't take it back, and we need something to eat. Want a bite?" He rubbed it on his pants to wipe off the alley's grime. Amy took a bite, then held on to Jack's shoulder as they limped off down the street, sharing the apple.